Hello, and welcome to our presentation on the impact of off-farm participation on agricultural production in Tanzania and Uganda. This study was conducted by myself, Laura Barasa, Bethuel Kinyanjui, Stephen Maende, and Faith Mariera from the University of Nairobi, and our mentor, Abdelkrim Araar. This study was funded by Partnership for Economic Policy. We are grateful for the opportunity to present our research at the virtual IEA World Congress 2021. In this presentation, I will first start by discussing the research context, and then I will highlight the research question and the policy question. I will then discuss the methodology, including the data and econometric strategy that this study used. I will then present the results and conclusions and offer some policy recommendations arising from the study. Agriculture is considered East Africa's engine for growth and development, contributing to about 30% of the gross domestic product. Sustained agricultural growth is crucial for reducing hunger and poverty in the region. Additionally, the sector is the major source of livelihood, especially in rural areas, where 70% of the poor are located. The sector employs about 75% of the total labor force and is an important sector in job creation and poverty reduction across countries in Africa and more so in East Africa. The agricultural sector in East Africa is dominated by smallholder farmers who account for about 75% of agricultural production. This production occurs on farm sizes of about 2.5 hectares. Farmers in this region use traditional technologies and primarily consume their own produce. The major challenge facing this sector is low agricultural production. One reason for this relates to labor participation on farm and off the farm. Indeed, off-farm income accounts for 23% of farmers' incomes. This indicates that the agricultural sector and the rural off-farm sector typically coexist. Indeed, literature shows that farm household members seek off-farm employment for income to meet their consumption needs, to finance farm inputs and technologies, or even as a risk management strategy. However, the direction of this causality is not always the case. The interaction of off-farm participation and agricultural production is likely to result in a complementarity effect or a competing effect. Consequently, an interaction resulting in a complementarity implies that policies reinforcing this relationship are beneficial. However, where the interaction results in a competing effect, policies focusing on minimizing trade-off between the two are crucial gains to be realized. Looking at the national agricultural policies in both Tanzania and Uganda, we observe that they both highlight that low agricultural production is a major challenge. However, they both underscore the importance of the off-farm sector. This leads us to the research question. What is the impact of off-farm participation on agricultural production in Tanzania and Uganda? Consequently, our policy question is off-farm participation complementing or competing with agricultural policies in Tanzania and Uganda? Policies aimed at leveraging off-farm participation will be deemed appropriate where there is evidence of a complementarity effect. On the other hand, evidence of a competing effect would mean that policies should aim at countering the adverse effects of off-farm participation on agricultural production. To address the research question, this study used a dynamic panel data model to address endogeneity. The dependent variable, agricultural production, was measured as total quantity of agricultural produce in kilograms. Off-farm participation indicated households engaging in business or self-employed activity other than agriculture as their main occupation. This study used panel data from the World Bank's Living Standard Measurement Survey, Integrated Surveys on Agriculture for Tanzania and Uganda. This included 3 weeks of data containing 1,919 households from Tanzania and 1,486 households from Uganda. The surveys involved administering interviews to collect data from 3 units of analysis, including individuals, households, and communities. The sample was nationally representative, and the surveys collected information on agriculture as well as non-agricultural facets of people's livelihoods, including employment, occupation, income, consumption, shocks, assets, and nutrition. The unit of analysis was households. Indeed, the key findings of the study was that off-farm participation had a negative and significant effect on agricultural production in Tanzania and Uganda. This study concluded that off-farm participation diminished agricultural production. We argue that the change in composition of labor supply pushed highly productive farmers into off-farm participation, contributing to a reduction in agricultural production. This is likely to be worsened by the effects of the current COVID-19 pandemic. Our findings suggest that rather than being a complement to agricultural production, off-farm participation acts as a substitute. Furthermore, off-farm participation is likely to yield income that is channeled to household consumption, as opposed to the purchase of agricultural inputs and technologies that enhance agricultural production. In conclusion, we observe that there's a trade-off between off-farm participation and agricultural production. Reducing the extent to which family labor is allocated to off-farm participation and enabling optimal use of inputs relating to family labor in agricultural production is therefore vital. Our findings reveal that there's a trade-off, and our policy recommendations are aimed at minimizing this trade-off. The complexities surrounding the formulation of pro-agricultural policies is clear in this study. Policies that enhance off-farm participation while reinforcing agricultural production of farm households are thus imperative. We suggest that policymakers consider these factors. For example, policies aimed at enhancing agro-processing and agribusiness enterprise development might be crucial in achieving the twin goal of enhancing agricultural production as well as enhancing the growth of the off-farm sector. Thank you for your attention.